Thanks for being here with us today. We've got some really great things to teach you, and we're so excited that you're here.
This class is an overview of rotating your way to health. What exactly does it mean to rotate your way to health?
Well, I like to think of it on such a small thing as like a week. I know that I feel completely different on Friday afternoon than I do on Monday morning because different things are happening. Friday means the weekend is here. We get to play, we get to spend more time outside, but then Monday morning rolls around and I don't want to get out of bed some days. It means real life has started again. And you know what? I don't mind Mondays and I don't mind life. But I just know there's a very different energy on different days of the week.
I love Sunday because I know it's going to be my day to rest, rejuvenate, to journal, to be with my family, to attend church. I love the feeling of Sunday, but I love the feeling of Friday too. It's just very different. So have you noticed that in your life that different days of the week feel different to you? It's just a natural cycle that we have. There are lots of other cycles, like, of course, the sun comes up every single morning in the east and it sets every single evening in the west. So that's an easy cycle that we see.
And it takes a full year to go all the way around the sun. So we can count our days by the sun. We do, right?
Right.
We know that the sun is going to stay in its cycle and do its thing.
And then we've got the moon phases, and we always know every month there's going to be a full moon and a new moon and all the sizes in between. Also the seasons, they come around every single year, winter, spring, summer, and fall. Each season feels very different. We know that in the middle of winter, we're not going to be out planting a garden. It's just different.
And we live in a place where we have 4 very distinct seasons. And I do love to watch them roll over one to another because they are so different. The light's coming in at a different angle and the trees look different. And there's just different energies, but different projects. I feel like with each time of year too, we're just working on different things.
So the cycles and seasons, they're just a part of who we are. They're a part of life. We can even bring it into a more personal cycle, like our wake and sleep cycle. What time do you go to bed? What time do you wake up in the morning? What time do you normally get hungry? What time do you put your kids down for a nap? We all create these cycles and rhythms throughout our day. Why? Because they help things move more smoothly. And when we stick to these cycles, we're actually healthier. There's all sorts of ways that we can see cycles and rhythms in our lives.
I almost feel like sometimes we create these cycles and rotations and rhythms and don't even realize it. I remember when I had babies and toddlers and, we're at home, so we're doing the same thing every day. And then something comes up, we have a doctor appointment or we have something going on and the baby is so cranky. And then of course I realized that we're right in the middle of his nap time. Even though I hadn't set a nap time, it had just automatically happened just through our rhythm of life.
And sometimes those rhythms do get thrown off. And so we just jump right back on and get back into the rhythm. And that's even a phrase that we say, hey, let's get back into the rhythm, like when school starts or, whatever it might be. Some other cycles in the body, though, are the women's menstrual cycle. For all of us, cell regeneration is happening all the time. This cycle of new growth and death, kind of like the life cycle of your cell. Talking about life cycles, I remember in elementary school, the life cycle of a frog. Who studied that? Do you remember it?
I think we all did. We all did.
You see like the little tadpole and then there's an arrow pointing to the next phase of the frog's life and a little arrow with the adult frog. And we learned about cycles in science class. And I remember those. I thought they were so fascinating. And it's just because we live in this amazing world that God's created for us, full of rhythms and cycles. And so that's exactly what we want to talk about, is to learn to see some other cycles in your life that maybe you haven't noticed yet. And that's why this is called rotating your way to health, because as we rotate through these cycles, we can actually help increase the health and vitality of our bodies in a really fantastic, maybe a little bit different way than you've considered before.
I mean, even God put cycles here for us, and we read that in the scriptures. In Ecclesiastes, he tells us that for everything there is a season, a time for every activity under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to harvest. That's my favorite scripture about seasons. But then he also talks to us about reaping and harvesting in 2 Corinthians. But this I say, he which soweth sparingly shall reap also sparingly, and he which soweth bountifully shall reap also bountifully. And I like to try to remember that as I'm rotating through these cycles and seasons, that I am still planting seeds, whether it's mentally, emotionally, physically, and then reaping the reward down the road, but to be very aware of what's going on in the current cycle that I'm in.
I love that idea of reaping and sowing, because we have a little farm, and if you've ever planted a seed or grown a garden or planted anything or worked hard at anything, it doesn't even have to be garden related. You know that what you put into it, you get out of it. So you plant a cucumber seed and you expect to get a cucumber or lots of cucumbers from that seed, right? God is a God of abundance. If you sow hard work and work really hard at something, you're going to reap the reward from that. So that's its own kind of cycle that the Lord has given us.
And the very wise Jim Rohn tells us that if you don't like what you're reaping, you'd better change what you've been sowing.
I love it.
And so just to be paying attention to those things. I know we say all the time, life is going so fast. My kids are growing up so fast. My grandson, he just turned 1, and I'm like, where did that year go? But by being more present in these cycles, I find that it doesn't feel like life is going so fast. I'm enjoying the moments that I'm in, and I'm able to take those deep breaths and just be.
When I first learned about rotating different foods for different months of the year, which we're going to get into, I wanted logically to know why. I just wanted the why. I'm a biologist, and I think that's just naturally innate in me. It felt really right. I loved the idea of it, and I wanted to track down all the logical parts of why this was going to work for me. Now, as we go through this series, we totally answer the logical parts, but I finally had to let those go a little bit and realize that I needed to let my heart lead. This way of rotating and cycling made a lot of sense to me, and it just felt right. So as we talk about these principles that we're going to talk about in this introductory Rotating Your Way to Health class, think about how you feel. Think about if it rings true to you.
So my next quote's for you then, as someone who's in your head a lot, and it's by a woman named Colette Mahoney. And she said, "Your heart is a palace, but you live in your head. You own a vast mansion, yet you sleep in a shed."
I love that. It's so good for me. It's a reminder for me to get out of my head and really let my heart lead, and let my heart let me know what it's feeling. Like if this is feeling right or wrong, or, get that inspiration for myself.
And when something seems to fit like this has for me and for you, just trying it out and just letting the fruits show. And I have found in my life, the fruits have been abundant. I know that's kind of a pun, right? Because we're talking about fruits and vegetables, but the fruits of this lifestyle have been really great.
And I've totally seen that too. I'm like, I just need to try it and see how it works. And I love it. I love it. I'm so excited to have found this. And Jen and I are both really excited to share it, just because it feels right. It's just been so good for our families to kind of shift into rotating how we eat.
Each season and month is new and beautiful and different. And during each month, our bodies heal and restore an organ system. And in order to support those different organ systems, we want to cook and eat differently each month. That's really the basis of what we're teaching today. And that as we rotate through these different foods, we give our bodies the optimal nutrition and support that they need to thrive. So even though each month we're focusing on one organ system, by supporting it that month, we're doing it good for the whole year. We take care of it that month, and then it treats us right the whole rest of the year as we help all the other organ systems. And I love that.
I love that too. And we also know that if an organ system is struggling, then you can go to the nutritional support for that organ system any time of the year to help support it throughout the year as well.
Such a wealth of knowledge we have just been blessed with that we are so happy to share. The first place we're going to go is we're going to talk about fruits and vegetables. We really just want to eat them in their season. And I know that's different for all of us because we live in different areas of the country. And so things that might be in season for me might be a month or two behind in other places in the country. But I think we all kind of have a pretty good idea of what's in season where we live. It really takes looking at it because honestly, I can walk into any grocery store in town and buy any fruit or vegetable that I want any time of the year.
Right, and that's exactly what we've gotten used to. If you want a watermelon in February, you might be able to find it. It's not going to taste great, but our grocery stores work really hard to have a wide variety of everything available to us because that's what we're used to. We've shifted from really eating what's fresh and local and in season to eating whatever the grocery store can get us. Now, in some regards, this is really a huge blessing because like I love mangoes and bananas and oranges. They just don't grow where I live, but they ship really well. So we can get oranges from California and still have them pretty fresh. We can get bananas and mangoes in kind of in the winter time, and they're really great too because we do know how to ship and share foods, and that's great. But also not ignoring the fact that what we should really be focusing on is what's in season. Right now, where I'm living, these are the things that are going to be the most healthy things for my body.
For thousands and thousands of years, our ancestors lived off what was available in each season. They didn't have the grocery store, they didn't have the refrigerated trucks. And so that's still in our DNA, and our bodies do work to optimal health when we honor those things. For example, some of the things are that leafy greens in the spring really help alkalize our bodies and facilitate that detoxification after a winter of heavier foods. And then hydrating things like watermelon and berries and cucumbers cool our bodies and keep us hydrated even in the summertime heat. And then winter squashes and the root vegetables are great ingredients for healthy and hearty stews and soups all winter long to keep us nourished and keep us full and keep us warm.
That's amazing how those things happen in the right season for what our bodies need.
God knew what he was doing.
God knew what he was doing. I love those fresh leafy greens in the springtime, and I love the winter squash in the fall. It just feels so good. It feels right. It feels natural. Oh, and I love the watermelons in the summertime.
Yes, yes. We live in the middle of a bunch of orchards. And so while I can buy apples all year long, I know they're going to taste better in September
Always.
because I can drive through the orchards and I know they're ripe. And it just makes such a difference. So fruits and vegetables are always our first place to go.
If you can find somewhere near you that has like a local CSA or farm share that you can support and get those fresh local fruits and vegetables as fresh as you can within maybe a 30-mile radius of your house, that's going to benefit you so much. A lot of what we're going to talk about through this course is finding those fruits and vegetables that are in season. And if the grocery store is the best place, that's great too.
Just be really careful and maybe watch. There's some things that we want maybe to get organic or not sprayed with pesticides, but just really do the best you can. Really support your body with as many fruits and vegetables as you can get.
Isn't that fun to think about eating for optimal health? I mean, to me, that's just like, yeah, that makes so much sense.
It does. It just rings very true.
In addition to eating the fresh fruits and vegetables in the season that they're ready, in the full course, we'll talk about what do you eat in the wintertime when there's no fresh produce ready. There's other things that you can do to support your body systems all year round. And so in the full course, we go through that month by month, what the best things to focus on for each month are.
So now that we've talked about the fruits and vegetables, let's move on to grains.
What really blew my mind when I learned about this whole system was that there's actually a specific grain for every month, just like there's better fruits and vegetables for every month. I thought that was really cool.
And that every month an organ system is renewing itself and that there is a grain that supports that organ system.
Before we go any further about grains, I have a story. Once upon a time, as all good stories begin, both fable and true, there lived a king. This king received an invitation to join the Olympic Games, both sport and academic. King Neb brought together all the young men who were favored in body and skilled in all kinds of learning, wisdom, and language. Having conquered a neighboring country, he chose the strongest and most able from among them to join the team. Give them the very finest of meat and wine from my storehouse, he instructed his coach. Spare no expense. Let them eat as I, the king, eats. 4 boys from the conquered country preferred not to eat the king's fare. Daniel, the spokesman, requested of the coach that they not eat the king's meat. Are you kidding me? This is the very best there is, the coach said. How do you expect to eat better than King Neb himself? I'll tell you what, said Daniel, let's make a deal. Let us eat our food for 10 days while the other boys eat the king's meat. When the time's up, give us a test. If we fail, we'll then eat the king's meat. If we pass, we'll continue to eat our food. The coach agreed to the contest. Amazingly, after 10 days, the boys were stronger and brighter than those who ate the rich food. Give them what they want, the coach said. I don't know if what they eat is making them strong, but whatever it is, it looks like we've got ourselves a great team. At the end of 3 years of training, the foursome won medal after medal, contest after contest. They were still looked at as kind of weird because they'd rather eat pulse than King Neb's food. But who can argue with all those gold medals? Daniel and his friends were fired up. They went on to play pro ball with the Babylonian Lions. King Neb was delighted with the honor that they brought to his kingdom. All right, some of you may be familiar with this story. It actually appears in Daniel in the Bible. And in Daniel chapter 1, verses 8 and 11, it says, Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Let them give us pulse to eat and water to drink.
So what exactly is pulse? And I don't think they just mean meat when they're saying the king's meat. It really is just all those really rich foods, right? But pulse, what is pulse?
Well, according to the Bible dictionary, pulse is the Hebrew word denoting seeds and may include the grains of leguminous vegetables and other edible seeds. So really just grains and seeds is the basis of what pulse is, and they wanted to eat those whole grains. You may remember Daniel from his later experience in the lion's den and how he continued to partner with God in a lot of things that he did throughout his life.
I know that what I eat affects me mentally, emotionally, and spiritually as well. So I totally can relate to Daniel. When I eat, because, I do sometimes, those really heavy, fatty, sugary foods, I don't feel well mentally, emotionally, spiritually. But when I am eating my fruits and vegetables and my grains and just really nourishing my body, it makes all the difference all around.
Now, well, there's a reason why grains make us feel so good if they're eaten correctly. And that's something that we're going to talk about in this course because there's a lot of carb fear going around, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But let's explain to you a little bit about why grains are so amazing.
Grains are seeds. It reminds me of the movie A Bug's Life, where he's talking about how this one little seed turns into that amazing big tree. And that's what all of our grains are. They're this little tiny packet that then can multiply 1,000,000 times over.
That's just full of all that energy.
Yeah, full of all that life and full of all that energy. They have a life force. We find it so much more abundantly in the grains than we do even in the fruits and vegetables, because the fruits and vegetables are the result of the seed or the grain, where the grain has got all of that inside of it. They're full of vitamins and minerals and all the enzymes that we need in balance. And we often hear grains called the staff of life. And so a staff is what shepherds use to guide their sheep. I think we see a lot of pictures of the Savior holding a staff when he's talking about being a shepherd. And the staff was used for several things in the ancient world. It was used as a walking stick. It was used to bring the precious little lambs to the shepherd. And it was used to fend off the wild animals.
Well, that's a lot of uses for a staff.
To bring things in and to keep bad things away and just for support. And so if we think of that in terms of our grains, it's helping us keep out the bad things, bring in the good things, and support us in everything that we do.
Oh, I love that tie-in.
Grains are made up of different parts. In the whole seed, it's covered in a hull, but we often don't see that part. That part kind of comes off in the threshing process or the harvesting process. But we have the bran. And often when we buy grains today, they have polished it or pearled it and have taken off the bran. But the bran is where we are getting our fiber and our B vitamins. Like, it's so important to include. Once it's been removed, it makes our white flours. Like, we're not getting that fiber. And we just really need that germ and the bran as part of that whole seed. And then when we start with the unbroken kernel, we want to start there to help maintain its natural oils and all of its nutrients. Because once the grain kernel has been crushed, it releases those oils and then they can go rancid. So when we store grains, we store them in their whole form and then crack them or grind them as needed.
That's amazing to me how long grains can be stored. They've done excavations of ancient Egyptian ruins and tombs and all that stuff. And they find jars of grains that are still good, that they will literally still sprout. That life energy that you talked about is still in the grains after thousands of years. I mean, that's incredible. They don't go rancid until they're ground up and the oils are kind of released.
It's not really practical to grind flour every time we need flour for something. So I like to grind a bunch all at once, and then I put them in bags and I store them in the freezer. And that helps maintain that oil and not let it go rancid as fast.
I like to do the same thing.
And then overall, grains are far less expensive than meat or meat products and even fruits and vegetables. They're really one of our most cost-effective foods.
And we're not saying that grains necessarily need to be in place of the meat you eat. Maybe just top of awareness, thinking about the grains that you're eating and making them more a part of your diet, whether you choose to eat meat or not. In our family, we eat meat sparingly. We eat a little bit more in the wintertime, a lot less in the summertime when there's fresh vegetables, and we just try to make grains the bigger part of our diet, grains and fresh fruits and vegetables, than meat.
And when we are reaching for those grains, because we know we want them in our diet, having this plan to rotate through them and use all these beautiful, wonderful grains throughout the year is just so nourishing and so wonderful.
That was another fun thing for me when I found out about rotating through this cycle for better health, is how many different grains I've been able to learn to use. It's been so much fun. However, a lot of times when people hear about grains, they're like, big X, like carbs. I don't want carbs, because in our world, there's been a lot of carb fear created. And now there's some diets out there that I'm sure you've heard of called keto or paleo, that people are jumping on these bandwagons all over the place and finding really great results. And what are they doing? They're cutting out the carbs. Well, let's talk about that for just a minute. There's a reason why when people cut out the carbs and just eat meat and vegetables, or there's even the carnivore diet, which is just animal products. I mean, if you can think of the crazy diet, it's out there somewhere. And there's probably good points to all of them. The reason why people feel better is because inflammation in their systems really does go down when they cut out the carbs. Probably because the types of carbs they were eating were causing a lot of inflammation. So when we think about carbs that people are generally eating in today's society, they're deep fried, like as in French fries, or white bread, white pasta, white rice. Everything's white.
And when we think of grains, it really is that. Like, most people think that grain means white Wonder Bread from the store. And that's what they're cutting out. When they're cutting carbs, they're cutting out their grains.
So the processed white versions of these grains, they can cause all sorts of problems, inflammation problems. So when we eliminate them, then yeah, the symptoms lessen and inflammation lessens, but we really still need grain in their whole forms. So we're talking about grains in a totally different way here. We have a really good friend who was talking to my husband about his health journey, and he's very healthy. He had gone totally paleo, cut out all the carbs from his diet, and was really working out a ton, and so eating a lot of meat, a lot of vegetables, just really disciplined with his regimen. And through a series of decisions, decided to start including grains back into his diet. But he totally included the whole grains this time. And he said he could not believe how much energy it gave him. He thought he was doing really good. After he included whole grains into his diet, he started feeling so much better. And it was then that he realized how much energy he had lost because it had been so long since he had grains. He could feel a difference right away. So again, grains just have that life force and that life energy if we eat them properly.
So eating them like our caveman ancestors did, maybe not quite back that far, but our pioneer ancestors, where they would grow it and harvest it and then soak it and sprout it and then use natural leavening like a sourdough. And we just have come so far away from those longer processes in order to have such quick preparation that we're unable to metabolize the grains like we should be able to if we treat them properly.
If we treat them properly, they're going to be so much better. Another reason people are having so much issue with grains is because their guts are messed up. They're not able to digest them, assimilate them, and use them properly. And so that when the body doesn't know what to do with it, then there's inflammation. As we move forward in this program, we're going to talk about probiotics and prebiotics and how to really increase the health of your gut. And there's so many things you can do. Sauerkraut, fermented vegetables. We need our guts able to digest these grains and fresh vegetables. So soaking the grains is just going to help with that. There's also another really big problem with grains, especially in America, and it's the pesticides that we spray on grains, specifically glyphosate. Even organic growers have a hard time keeping that glyphosate off their grains because when they're being crop dusted, it just kind of spreads in the wind. We don't know people who are having issues with gluten. It could be that the grains have changed from ancient grains. It could be that they're not being soaked, but it could also be the glyphosate and the pesticides that are on the grains that are causing so many issues. So because of that, it really is important where you source your grains. Finding them organic, number one, is the best thing you can do. Still, as far as cost goes, when compared to meats, they're still way cheaper, even if you go find your organic grains. The second thing is to rinse them before you use them. Take that extra step just to rinse off any residue that might be on them. In our course, we talk about red clover tea, which is really good at helping your body flush out any of those extra toxins that might come from the grains. Unfortunately, in our society, that is something that we have to worry about.
And if you're gluten intolerant or celiac, don't feel like this excludes you. We rotate through an entire year of grains and seeds, but only 3 of them contain gluten, and that would be wheat, barley, and rye. The rest of the months are gluten-free grains, and even on the months that we talk about and use the wheat, barley, and rye, we have alternatives for you. So being celiac or gluten intolerant is not going to rule you out for using this program of rotation. But then where do we buy these grains? You're going to see a list of grains that maybe you haven't heard of before or know what they look like. And where do you get them? And I've had good luck at my local health food store in their bulk section. I can usually find what I'm looking for there. We also have a Winco close by with bulk grains, and I can usually find them there. There's a grocery delivery system as your standard.
They deliver organic groceries you can get online and order, and there's lots of drop-off points all across the US.
And we find that their grains not only are organic, but also a very good price, and you can buy them in bulk.
So good places. There are definitely some places that you can find that sell those organic grains that we're going to be talking about.
You may not find them all at your local Walmart. I can probably guarantee you're not going to find most of them at your local Walmart. So you are going to have to branch out just a little, but we're surrounded by places where we have access to all of these grains.
The great thing about buying grains in bulk is that they'll last. They'll totally last on your shelf for a lot of years. So it's okay to buy a big 25-pound bag of barley and learn how to use it.
For being on this class, you're going to get our rotation schedule, so you'll know which grains specifically support each of the organ systems and in which month to use them. Just for being here today. So don't let these grains scare you when you see things like millet and flax and buckwheat and rye. Those are the ones that are less common. But as we rotate through the year, we have so much more than just fruits and vegetables and grains. There's so many things we can do for our bodies through our mindset and through our movement. And so as we move forward in the course, we'll be doing a class every single month, right before the month starts, so that you're ready to go when the next month rolls around. We're going to walk you through the 4 pillars, and that is the foods that you should eat, and that includes the fruits and vegetables and grains. And when we talk about that, we're not saying exclusively eat these things. We're just saying keep them at your top of mind awareness and incorporate them during your month. And then we're going to talk to you about some supplements that you can take, and then some mindset shifts, and then also movement that best supports that organ system as we rotate through the year.
The amazing thing with going through every single month is that you're going to learn tons of information specifically for that month and for the organ system that is supported during that month and supported by the grains and fruits and vegetables that we eat. But it's a lot of information. So we've consolidated this information down into this awesome little quick reference guide that you can hang up on your fridge or on your cupboard, just for motivation and for remembering exactly what we talk about in every class. Those come with every single monthly class.
And a lot of times we introduce a new grain and people think, I don't even know what to do with it. I wouldn't even know where to start using that. So we'll also include some recipes to get you started off on that. Here's what the grain is, and here's how you use it in its most basic form. And then here's some things, some recipes that you can use it in.
We've been learning these things for the last couple of years and incorporating them with our family. And so now we have a lot of really great ideas to pass on to you with each and every month and each and every grain.
And there still might be questions that you have. And so Jenna and I will make ourselves available every month to do a live question and answer session so that we can answer all of those questions that you might have as you're rotating through.
Like we said, today you get this totally free grain rotation chart. It's very valuable. We hope you take it home, print it out, put it up, and start to rotate your grains and figure out what these grains are for. This is a great place to start. We're really happy to pass this gift on to you. We also want to inform you, though, that there's a lot more that you'll be getting if you decide to jump in with us and take a year-long journey through every single month of the year where you get all these details.
So just to recap, by being here today, you're getting the free grain rotation chart. And then when you join us on the subscription to get these classes every month, you'll get the class every month that gives you all the details about how to rotate through that month and the foods and the 4 pillars that will help you best support that organ system.
It's like sitting down and having a conversation with Jen and I about exactly what to do for the coming month.
And then second, you'll get a quick reference sheets, which you can print out and hang up on your cupboard that will just give you the highlight points, just to jog your memory of the things that you should be working on that month. And then the third thing you'll get are the recipes pertaining to the monthly grain to help you get off on the right foot. And then the fourth thing is the live question and answer session with Jenna and I to answer all of your questions. When you subscribe to the monthly classes, we'll have 2 options. You can subscribe and just pay monthly and then cancel at any time, or you can buy the whole year up front. And when you do that, we're going to send you a printed calendar, a nice printed full color version that you can hang up in your kitchen. You'll also get a hard copy of our cookbook. I know when I'm using a cookbook in the kitchen, I want it to be paper and ink because I get lost when I'm reading a recipe on my phone. So all of that for joining us in this course.
We are so excited to jump in with you guys. This is going to be a blast. I can't wait. I can't wait to sit and talk to everyone every month about all the amazing things that have helped you and I in our journeys. We're just ready to help you with yours, ready to help boost your health and that of your family. If this feels good to you, let your heart lead. Think about the principles we've just talked through and decide if this is feeling right to you. If it is, maybe give it a try. See if you can rotate your way to health just like we've done.